Sisters, we've all turned up the radio to hear Brother Jimmy Lakey, from coast to coast and shore to shore. Now raise your voice, oh little song, Jimmy Lakey, get out of bed, Jimmy Lakey, raise your voice, Jimmy Lakey, Lakey, hey, can't live without it with Jimmy Lakey, Jimmy Lakey.
Well, top of the... Oh, I got to get the mic over here, right? Thanks, Delilah. Delilah's pointing, like, get the mic. I'm like, sorry, I forgot. I was happy. I was dancing. Everybody, good morning to you. How's everybody doing? How the heck are you? It's hump day, halfway till Friday. Jimmy Lakey is my name. Hopefully by this time of the morning, you already know your name. If not, you might want to seek help in the new year and dry yourself out if you're not doing dry January. By the way, who's doing dry January? Anybody? I sometimes have said the word, you're not supposed to say this, but some people do damp January and some people call it moist January. But some people get offended by that word, and I don't understand that. But are you doing the dry January? If you are, good luck, God bless, and you probably already know what your name is this morning. If you're not doing the dry January, you probably don't know what your name is this morning, and you're stumbling around like one of the hipster youth here at the Lakey Entertainment Towers. Good to have you here. The 7th day of January, year of our Lord 2025. Pleasured, pleased, and thrilled. If you're new to the show, we had yesterday what they call a Rumble Raid on the program. Is it Rumble? Yeah, it was Rumble Raid, in which I guess somebody on the Rumble platform shares it out with all their friends, and on the Rumble platform, everybody starts jumping in and commenting. So if you were on Rumble yesterday, you saw quite a bit of a flurry of activity. If you were not, then you missed it. Anyway, if you're new to the program, glad to have all of you being new to the program. And I said 2025, did I? See, I did that earlier on the program. I do a show sheet that kind of gives me a couple of like news story links that I can click on. And earlier today, it said 2025, and it still does. Let me cross that out. 2026. It's all corrected now, right there. So you see it. All right. It takes a while. It takes a while to get into the habit of the year that we're in. But 2025-6 is the year of our Lord, and so is 2025. Praise be. All right, good to have all of you here. What do we want to talk about? Let's talk about Venezuelan oil. Let's talk about ICE recruitment. Let's talk about Trump saving coal. Let's also talk about National Passing Gas Day. Don't want to offend you, but today is National Pass Gas Day. So some of you are going to celebrate accordingly, and some of you are going to be horrified that people are celebrating accordingly. But it's a true story. Yesterday was National Bean Day. You can't make this up. Yesterday was National Bean Day, and today is National Pass Gas Day. So I'm going to leave that out there for you. Also going to talk about Minnesota fraud and corruption. And now the Attorney General there, Mr. Keith Ellison, is under scrutiny. People are looking at him. We'll get to that story as well. I got a member of the squad whose husband is a felon, and he's not happy because of the Minnesota, not the Minnesota fraud, but because they're being questioned about it. So lots to talk about in Minnesota. There's a House Oversight Committee hearing in which they're going to try to get to the bottom of the Minnesota fraud. We'll talk about that. There's also a hearing today in which the Trump administration is going in to talk about the policy in Venezuela and what some people are calling the Donroe Doctrine. We'll talk about Joe Biden's big pension, one of the biggest ever. So everybody hold on to your horses. Lots of things to get to. And I'm pleasure that you're going to get to them with me, and we're going to get to them together. Now, we did not have a formalized question of the day, but I think it comes up to one that I just made up in my head. And usually when I'm just making stuff up in my head, it's really, really dangerous. I mean, there's meds for that. There's therapy, all that stuff. I get it. But sometimes I come up with a great idea, and then producer Chad's in the producer booth going, now, what's he going to do now? It's not here. He thinks it's 2025. The guy's lost his mind. What's he going to do now? Well, I got a question today. And no, it's not about your favorite place to pass gas. It's not about... I asked before the show. I got a 12-year-old humor. I'm sorry. I asked before the show. I said, Delilah, do you ever enjoy the Dutch oven? And she didn't know what the Dutch oven was. I think that's what you call it, right? Yeah. Anybody remembers a kid? But we got to get to that. The National Pass Gas thing. It's a generational thing, and I'll get to the explanation of that, because how you and I might have as children or teenagers especially as boys. Girls, I can't speak to you, but we fellows, especially as teenagers and youngsters, and even probably grown-ass men, sometimes it's kind of funny. It's not polite, but it's very funny. And guys do it, 11-year-old sleepovers, and man, that thing smells like dirty socks and farts is what it smells like. Well, anyway, there's a new survey, kind of a new review out there of how kids view that now as opposed to how we did. I can't believe we're talking about this right now. National. I'm going to do the whole story, Delilah. I promise you. Delilah's doing the gags thing. She's like, this is gross. Well, guys are like, tell me more. Tell me more. I remember that. Anyway, Delilah still doesn't know what the Dutch oven is. So, all right. The question of the day that I made up, I came up with this on my own, and that's usually a dangerous place to be when I'm in my mind on my own, is what do you think of the Donroe Doctrine? What do you think of... Jim just thank you, Jim. Jim on the Facebook feed. If you're on Facebook, I don't know which page he's on, but if you're on that page, you see it. Jim's talking about the Dutch ovens. Yeah, there we go. That could be taken somewhere. All right. What do you think about the Donroe Doctrine? Anybody got an opinion on this? I've got friends that very much have the derangement syndrome, and they think that Donald Trump is being aggressive, and there's nothing for us to see in Venezuela. There's people I know that are offended that he's talking about Greenland, and they don't want the Greenland. It used to be, if you go back to the Monroe Doctrine, and we'll talk a little bit about this, is that we decided that if you're going to be a king, a tyrant, it doesn't matter. Don't come into our hemisphere and don't mess with us. And over the years, we've had more and more people come into our hemisphere and have great influence. Now, we're the granddaddies of them all in the hemisphere. Canada's pretty much worthless as far as defending itself militarily, and nobody's going to mess with the Canadians because we're right there, and we're their grand protector, even though they're technically a colony or a province of the United Kingdom. We're the ones that we're the ones that probably keep them safer than the Europeans do. Mexico, we have kind of our little bubble here, and it used to be no one was allowed to come in. And a lot of it started with of course, the Russians tried to go into Cuba, and that's what led to the Cuban Missile Crisis and set up a missile base there, and they became communist, and that was an idea that wasn't from us, it was from there. So we didn't allow this kind of stuff to happen. Well, the Chinese have done a lot of it over the last couple of decades. One of the ways they've done this is through the Belts and Roads initiatives. You perhaps have heard of this. And with the Belts and Roads, they go into these third world and or developing countries, and they will say, hey, listen, your infrastructure sucks. You got potholes and goats on the road and no places for cars, and it's bad here. So let us come in and put your beltways, your roadways in. Let's build infrastructure. It helps them. One of the things that helps the Chinese do is they can send over some of their male labor. They don't have enough jobs over there. And and what these countries then become beholden to China. China then has an invested interest in and a stake in the country. And that's what they do. The Chinese lay a foothold in the country. A lot of countries in Africa also have benefited from the Belt and Road Initiative of China. But what that does is gives the commie Chinese a foothold into whatever country and or region they're in. And it used to be with the Monroe Doctrine, we did not allow these types of things to happen. We were very careful about who moved in next door. We were the great president of the Western Hemisphere HOA. We were going to make sure that we liked all the neighbors and we liked the yard decorations. And if they had a car on blocks in the front yard, then we were going to make sure we approved of it. And that's how it did. But slowly but surely, we have almost had the opposite of the Monroe Doctrine. And Donald Trump has reinvigorated that. Do you agree with that? What do you think of the Donroe Doctrine, in which Donald Trump says, you know what, we're the president of the HOA. We keep all of your butts safe in terrorism. We're the guys that won World War II for you. And so because of that, we're going to do a little cleanup in the neighborhood, and we're going to have a neighborhood watch party. And the Chinese, you've been taking over that Panama Canal. out. We'll take the thing back. If we remember that, the Panama Canal, we threatened military action. We're taking the Panama Canal back. We built it. You violated the lease, Panama. And that's the Donroe Doctrine, saying you're not going to have the communist Chinese in our HOA doing things that are against the HOA rules. And by the way, we set the HOA rules. And so let me ask you, do you agree or disagree? Do you get nervous and have fear and trepidation, or do you have American pride and want to salute the flag when you see the ability for Donald Trump to say, no, we're cleaning up the neighborhood? Venezuela, you've been sending drugs from your little meth house over there, and you've been sending them here to the United States of America. We're the HOA. We're going to clean this thing up. We're not going to put up with that. Cuba, that Venezuelan oil you've been getting, not sure we're going to give that back to you for a while. We're going to see if your government will change. You're already starving your people, so let's just see if we can get some help to your people. There's just so many things that he's done. The Panama thing is one that comes to mind. And then the Greenland thing, at first he was threatening the Dutch run Greenland, or Denmark runs Greenland, and it's about 50,000 people. And it is true, I've done some of the search on, it's not just him saying this, that the Chinese and the Russians have made headway up there, and that is a pathway in which in the world of missiles can fly. I mean, there's some strategery there. And if it's not a strategic piece of land, why does Denmark want it so bad? Well, Denmark says it's not for sale. The Trump administration now says, hey, we got the Donroe Doctrine. We're going to see if it's for sale, because maybe we could pay the people there and they'll be on our side. So we'll see. Do you like the Donroe Doctrine? Are you getting nervous about President Donald John Trump reestablishing definite American dominance in the Western Hemisphere, like we did back in the days of Monroe, but now it's Donroe? And what do you think of that? We have not seen this type of, I would guess, what did Truman say? Walk softly, but carry a big stick. We haven't seen this kind of big stick since long time. Been a while. And does it make you comfortable or uncomfortable? This is your chance to sound off. What do you think of the Donroe Doctrine that's imitating and mirroring and even exceeding the expectations of the Monroe Doctrine? Love to get your take on that. That is your question of the day. And so if you're new to the program, feel free to jump in. There's comments coming in now on YouTube. If you're on the YouTube channel, you see it. We'll put some of them on the screen, because I know you don't see all the platforms. You're only seeing the platform and the viewers on your little stream that you're watching. So we'll get to it. But let me read the first one. Setting the Pace. Highway Living on YouTube says, we have been sitting on our hands for the past 50 years while enemy states have made moves into our hemisphere. So I think it's about time we put our interests first. Yes, I like the Donroe Doctrine. What say you? Do you like the Donroe Doctrine? Or are you getting nervous? Love to hear from you and to get your take on it. The Donroe Doctrine probably would not have shocked Americans 100 years ago, 50. It wouldn't have shocked them. But today we have become very sensitive, and we have become very sensitive people, and we hurt feelings easy. People get their feelings hurt. And is the Donroe Doctrine hurting your feelings? Are you worried that it's going to hurt someone else's feelings, or do you think that that's what we have? The idea of American exceptionalism kind of sort of came out of that Monroe Doctrine, that, hey, we're better. We're spreading freedom. We're a beacon of light, and doggone it. I like the HOA analogy. We're the HOA, and we've allowed a few neighbors to move in down the block and 2 blocks over, and it's kind of not great. Hasn't helped the property values, but they're nice people, or we don't want to hurt their feelings. No, they put up a crack house, they put up a meth house, and we're not going to tolerate that crap anymore because we run the HOA. That's what the Donroe Doctrine is. Agree or disagree? You tell me. All right, we want to get to that. It's also, and I mean, there's National Pass Gas Day. We'll talk about that because there's a survey. Somebody did a survey about passing the gas. I keep coming back to the story. It's the 12-year-old in me. All right, we're going to get to Minnesota fraud as well. It's getting crazy up there. Old Timmy Waltz is blaming it on white supremacy and right-wing extremists, and he made some weird speech yesterday. You hear that? He's going to ride us harder than we've ever been ridden before. And I'm wondering, is he talking to us? Is he talking to Minnesota? Who's he talking to? Who's he going to ride harder than we've ever been ridden before in the next few months? It was a bizarre speech. And it just every day this guy talks since he was nominated, you have to thank God Almighty that he was not our vice president of the United States. So we'll talk more about Timmy Waltz and the corruption that's happening in Minnesota. And there's more and more chatter going on that California is also going to be under some scrutiny soon. And I read this headline. I haven't saw the story that the state of Texas has opened up an investigation, I believe, into some fraud that might have been happening there. Don't know the details of that. I know some of you are in Texas, so I'll try to get some more information on that this week as well, but I just saw the headline about that. All right, good to have all of you here on the program. We want to welcome in our first guest of the morning here in just a moment. But before we do, I want to remind you that less than 2 weeks away, it's our very first event of the 2026 season. We're calling them the Roadshow events. We're going back to the place where we launched the show. We did a roadshow there on Inauguration Day 2025. We're going to return to the scene of the party. It's the Lakey Unleashed Roadshow. There's your pretty graphic. I'll be there. Producer Chad will be there. The show will be live on that morning. It's Tuesday, the 20th day of January, 2 weeks from yesterday, less than 2 weeks away. Less than 2 weeks away. The show starts at 8, doors open at 7:45. Hopefully the weather's good. If you were at that event, people drive for an hour and a half, 2 hours, because the snow and the ice, and we were below zero that day in Colorado, which is kind of unusual. But it was a fun day. So the Lakey Unleashed Roadshow is coming up, and we've got some other roadshow stops we're going to be doing, and we'll keep you posted on that. So maybe we're coming to your neighborhood, your state, or what have you. So let us know what you think of that. And yeah, we hope to see you January the 20th at the Casbar Cigar in Lafayette, Colorado, our first stop at the 2026 Lakey Unleashed Roadshow. All right, it's a pleasure to have you here on the program. If you're new to the program, again, Jimmy Lakey, unleashed from the confines of corporate radio, and now doing our own streamcast and podcast that we do, and it's a pleasure to have you here. All right, let me go to my first guest of the day. His name is Tim Martin. He's the marketing director of the John Birch Society. We always love having the folks from the John Birch Society, or JBS, on the program. One of the leading in the long history of defending the Constitution, promoting limited government. And he joins us into the program. If I can hit the right button, and I think I can, even though I have coffee. Let's do it. Tim Martin, welcome back to the show, sir.
Great to be back.
Pleasure to have you. Let's dive into a couple of topics. We seem to have established a new doctrine, now called the Donroe Doctrine. So we've taken on the Monroe Doctrine. And some of us, some conservatives, get nervous. Some people don't get nervous. They love it. Love carrying the big stick and saying, hey, we're running the HOA called the Western Hemisphere. Other people say, hey, we want to kind of stay out of these foreign entanglements altogether. None of our business here. And, as long as socialism doesn't show up on our doorstep, we don't care what's happening down in, let's say, Venezuela. Give me your thoughts. Limited government, the Donroe Doctrine, how do they all play together, sir?
Well, again, thanks for having me back here. Always a pleasure. I think we're kind of, into new times here a little bit because, frankly, I'm a little bit more Massey than I am Trump on this issue, and only from the standpoint of process. I think while noble, what Trump has done is just that, but I don't really see it as a constitutional option. Where we stand here, because the War Powers Act was really kind of geared towards a time when folks couldn't get to Washington, D.C. very quickly. So, and, under immediate threat, the president was authorized to sort of attack. But we don't have that situation here. Geography is not really a factor anymore in modern day America, or really here on Earth at all. I mean, you can see what we did in Iran. You can see what we did in Venezuela. It doesn't really take a lot of time to ramp these things up. And I think, some of the points that you were making earlier, I think they're all great points. I think they're all valid points. And I think that discussion needs to be had in Congress. That is the constitutional method. And I think that, Trump would get a lot of approval. I think it's very telling when you have the Secretary of State, indicate to us, well, he couldn't tell Congress for fear of leak. Yeah. And that's a little bit problematic. I mean, a lot of this stuff could have been done behind the scenes with the Secretary of State before we got to this point.
The voice of Tim Martin. He's with the John Birch Society. We'll talk about that in just a moment. It's interesting now that the deed has been done and Maduro is in captivity in New York. And we've had this happen before. Manuel Noriega back in 1990 was brought to justice. It took 2 days to get him and some fighting and boots on the ground. But now it's done. And it's fascinating to hear one of the responses. We should release him back to Venezuela. Mamdani, the Democratic Socialists of America, have actually issued a statement that their comrade, Maduro, needs to be released from jail and sent back to Venezuela to tyrannize the people there. That's kind of a fascinating solution. Rather than debating whether we should do this in the future or what the policy should be, what's the point of saying he should be released when everyone knows he's not going to be released?
Yeah, I think he's just trying to score points with his base, is really all that boils down to. But if New York wants to continue down the path towards Venezuela, they can reelect somebody like Mamdani when he comes back up, or elect additional city council members, in that sort of, I guess, mental space. But it's not going to be good. History shows us that it's not going to be good, and it's just kind of really bizarre that people continue down this path despite the lack of success that it has had throughout the ages.
It's fascinating watching Mamdani, even though he's a local mayor and influential. The media covers him as if he's a national figure, which kind of drives me nuts because Mamdani should stay in his lanes. I mean, you're the mayor. Do the buses run on time? Is the trash pickup happening? Is the police union happening? And yet he's calling the president to address his concern about the arrest of Maduro. I'm thinking, not your role there, buddy. We have other people to do that. We got to focus so more on cities and states, and everything becomes nationalized. Mamdani is trying to nationalize New York City. When you start focusing on states, you start recognizing, we've all been shaking our hand at the fraud, waste, and abuse that happens in Washington, D.C., and then go, well, Minnesota. Oh, crap. We have turned so much attention to Washington, D.C., we're letting some pretty bad stuff happen in our own backyard with our own tax dollars, and Minnesota's proof of that.
Yeah, and that's very, very good point. And I think that some of the angst, I guess I could say, I was at Freedom Fest talking to a lot of young people out there a couple of weeks ago before Christmas, and a lot of people are very frustrated about all of this kind of foreign intervention and foreign entanglements. We were warned against all those sorts of things. So the young people in this country do not have any appetite for that, I can tell you right now. And I think that they've wised up to the fact that we have this central bank that's just printing money like they're going out of style. And over the break, we actually put up a post on our social media that you can find over on Facebook. It said, if Congress was just being constitutional, there wouldn't be any money going to the Minnesota daycares to begin with. So it's very important, and I think that's one thing that JBS brings to the table, is to really focus on the disease versus the solution. And the disease here is really the dysfunction that Congress is running through and getting all this money printed. The central bank can print a bunch of money, Jimmy, but if they don't have a vehicle to get it into the money supply, it's just paper on a shelf. They need these government programs to get it into the money supply. And I can tell you that almost all of them are completely unconstitutional. So if they were just following the Constitution, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Again, the voice of Tim Martin with the John Birch Society. JBS will give their website and all the details here in just a moment. You can follow them on social media and read some of their great work that they do. Tim, it's amazing. You talk about these. If we were following the Constitution, we would not be funding this crap in Minnesota. Yeah. If we were following the Constitution, I'm guessing we'd have a lot more money in our pocket. But right now, our money comes from the local community, goes to Washington, D.C., and then Washington says, hey, let's give, we took that money from Lakey in Colorado. Let's put that over in daycares in Minnesota. We took Martin's money. We're going to ship that up there to California. And that's not, is anybody learning? Is anybody paying attention? While Democrats and even Republicans, we're in a constitutional crisis. They're like, yes, we are. And it's because too much authority has been centralized in D.C. and the founders never intended. The Constitution clearly says that's not how it should be.
Yeah, 100%. We really hope that people are learning a lesson, but it seems like time and time again we turn around and they're not necessarily doing that. I actually am an elected official in my town. I'm a mayor actually in my town, so I can kind of see this from a street level as well. And real time, I actually put it into practice. No, but you're right. I mean, the government by design is the least efficient allocator of resources that there is, and continuing to grow that is going to create more and more inefficiency. Our goal and our purpose as individuals, as an organization at the Birch Society, is to minimize that as much as possible. We have allowed it to grow in part because we really just don't understand the Constitution and the form of government that we have. I kind of think of it like a rule book. A rule book for government. And if you watch football, for instance, or really any sport, there's a rule book. You've got to know the rules to know whether your representative is offsides or committing a pass interference or something like that. And consequently, you really need to know what the penalty is as well. Some are small, some are big, but sometimes they get ejected out of the game, don't they? And that's some of the things that we need to do. A lot of these, officials get reelected. Because we don't know otherwise. And it's very, very important. Tocqueville talked all about this, and you can look him up all over the place. But we have a modern day situation here that really is kind of a little bit of a deep hole, but it's not a dark hole, not one we can't get out of with a little bit of not just education, but actually putting it into practice. And, going back to the early 1900s when we have the 16th and the 17th Amendment, all of those sort of things, the downstream effects of those things are really what we're seeing here almost 100 years later. And I don't want to get doom and gloom because, this there's no silver bullet here, Jimmy. There's no microwave solution. We're not going to just unwind this overnight, and people need to realize that. But they also need to realize we're not going to save this country or preserve what we have from a keyboard or a couch.
Yeah. Again, the voice of Tim Martin. We'll give you a little plug for the JBS, John Birch Society, in just a moment. I like your thought about the playbook. We have to know the rules because we can find ourselves even on what we'd call the conservative or the Republican or whatever side name you might put on your jersey. Yes. We also find ourselves saying, "Oh, they ought to pass that law. They ought to pass that law." No, they shouldn't, because it doesn't go with the playbook. We all get sucked into this thing and going, "That'd be a great policy." Yes, in fairy tale land it would be, but it's not constitutional. And we do it on both sides. Both sides end up doing that, Republicans and Democrats, but we like it, so it must be okay.
Yeah, a lot of times we like it when it's our guy that we voted for is doing it. Executive orders is a great example of that.
Absolutely.
But all of these laws, and kind of, if you get into a little bit of the psychology of them, they're all about really kind of deflecting or deferring what is our responsibility and hoping that somebody else is going to do it. That's one of the big hangups I have about term limits. We have them at the state level, but it doesn't ever change the party seat. But what it does do, I think, is create a lot of apathy. People are almost given permission to tap out and just rely on a clock to do the work for them that they should be doing. This constitutional republic requires maintenance just like your car. You got to change the oil every once in a while. You got to rotate the tires. And more importantly, like we said, you've got to understand and know the rule book. If you go over to our YouTube channel at the John Birch Society, we actually just put together a great program called The Blueprint for Liberty. It's a great series. I think it's about 13 episodes. You can knock them out pretty quickly. But it really kind of gets into the nuts and bolts of some of this stuff. And I tell you, if you take the time and you invest the time to go through that program, you're going to be more educated than probably 90% of our elected officials.
Again, the voice of Tim Martin, and with the John Birch Society. Tim, let's dive into a little bit more. You mentioned the YouTube channel for John Birch. It's really about education, equipping people to not just have the knowledge, but then go be active in the community. And that can be like you, a mayor of your hometown. You don't just have to curse and put all your angst up in Washington. Right. You've got a school board and a mayor's office or town council or some commission that might need some reason as well. Talk about the JBS.
Well, we're really sort of a solution-based education and action organization. We kind of are your on-ramp to get off of the couch and actually do something about it, where we can kind of just spoon feed you these different things and these different concepts to really get you built back up, because our education's been purposely dumbed down to keep people from understanding the rule book, and we want to reverse that tide for people and make it very easy. We want to meet you where you are. You can become a member for as little as $87 a year, and you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff from us to really help you do that. But we're also going to hopefully be able to put you in concert with others so that you don't feel alone. And that's probably one of the most encouraging parts about it. You really do find out that you're not the only person. We have all these aliases online. You don't necessarily know who these people are, but if we can put you in touch with other people in your community that think the way that we do, that are wanting to do the sorts of things that we're talking about, they're showing Blueprint for Liberty, we're doing classes, we're meeting with our elected officials, all of that stuff adds up. And I've really been able to put a lot of that into practice right in my own backyard, in my own community. And boy, what a world of difference it can make. And you really find out that you're not alone.
Tim Martin, with the website we have is jbs.org. Your JBS is active on the YouTube. You mentioned the YouTube channel, some education assets there. Is JBS the hub, though, to find everything John Birch Society?
Yeah, that's really our website for all the corporate stuff. We also have a media company, thenewamerican.com, but we're on all the socials. We're on the YouTube. We're on Rumble. So you can get it just anywhere. We're very easy to find, Jimmy. And to your audience, please go to jbs.org. You can click on the join link. You can sign up today and get started. Why wait? Go ahead and get started today. It's 2026. It's about new resolutions. Why not make this yours?
jbs.org, jbs.org. Tim Martin, I appreciate you hopping on the program. Joy, pleasure, pleased to have you, and thankful that you come on the show. And again, I say this when it's on the radio broadcast days, and I've said this a lot, that so many times people want to get down and have a discussion about this, that, the national politics, and all their angst is going to go to, we hate Nancy Pelosi or Tim Walz, he's a bad guy. And you fill in the blank. You can name your politician on either side, and people get all angst filled. And they're usually the national figures out there. But do you know who's on your school board? Do you know who's on your city council? Those people are probably, or do you know who's on your county commission? These people are going to probably affect your day-to-day life more than old Hillary Rodham Kinkle's Clinton will. She's not even in power anymore. So pay attention in your own backyard. And as we say, pay attention to your own backyard. Back to the HOA analysis, right? But we've got mechanic analysis. We've got change your oil analogies. We've got the sports analogies going on. We're trying to make this real simple for people like Delilah so she can understand what's happening. jbs.org, jbs.org. All right. I got a serious topic here. I really do. I want to say thank you to Sherry Cree, one of our great friends of the program, been with us since the very beginning. We've talked about the Lehman Lewis Financial Group, our old friend Corey Clinton, and his work in home HVAC systems, and just the great work they do. But Sherry is a realtor, and she knows that right now, this week, next week, the next week, you should be probably thinking about your real estate transactions in 2026. I've talked about this with her before, and a lot of folks, I always thought that this selling window for a home, you don't want to list your home when it gets closer to list your home when it gets closer to the spring and the summer, the warm weather, like May, June, July. Well, then people are on vacation. Then the people are taking the kids to the pool. Then it's tougher. Listen, if you want to sell, you'd be surprised that right between now and Super Bowl, that's a great time to start getting that home ready, get the home on the market. That's the early, it's all regional, it's all local, but a lot of times, Sherry has great examples of last year. Somebody waited two homes, similar neighborhoods, similar price point, went on the market, and the person who listed their home in February had it ready to go. And I think 30, 45 days, they were closed and ready out. I mean, it moved quick, and it was a bidding war. They went above the listing price, and then somebody else decided, I'm going to wait till the kids get closer out of school. And the price came down, and they had to do price reductions to finally get the house moved. Why? Because just the season, the market, and it's all about whether it's the buyer's market, the seller's market. Sherry can walk you through all that, because strategy, the right strategy, is what's going to help that real estate transaction, that purchase, that sale, that relocation. It's not just a relocation, not just a U-Haul truck, my friends. This is a way to build generational wealth, and you want to do it right. And she can help you with that strategy. And literally a matter of a few weeks could matter. Did you hear me say it again? Literally, a matter of just a few weeks can really make a difference. So reach out to Sherry, homeswithsherry.com. If you're out of state, you can call her. She'd love to talk to you and maybe give you a referral, someone in your area. But if you're in the state of Colorado, that Interstate 25 corridor, homeswithsherry.com. That's from Denver to Fort Collins, Boulder to Longmont, Parker, Aurora, Lakewood, Littleton, down in Castle Rock. If there's an area that she says, I got a friend that I'll refer you to, she'll tell you because she has a free referral service. And by the way, if you're a parent, you're trying to get those kids to buy their first home, a young couple thinking about buying your first home, she's got great consultation and counseling and how you can get things, make your first home purchase, be a new home buyer, even in a very expensive state like Colorado, where home ownership seems to be slipping out of the ways of so many. So if you've got a senior parent or you're a senior, you want to downsize, she can help take that burden off of you, and she can it's overwhelming sometimes to think of moving, especially if you've lived in a place for a while, but she can really make it a lot easier. So just by her support, her expertise, and the knowledge and connection she has. Homeswithsherry.com, right there on the screen. Homeswithsherry.com, homeswithsherry.com. Be sure to tell her that you heard about her on this program. Homeswithsherry.com. All right, President Trump last night announces Venezuelan oil is coming our way. Here's what he announced on his Truth Social platform. He says the government will send us up to $50 million a barrel. They have agreed to that. Venezuela's interim government will provide the United States between 30 and 50 million barrels of oil, which will then be sold at market prices. This comment comes after the president indicated Saturday that the American oil companies would help Venezuela rebuild its oil infrastructure, which is expected to bring in revenue for Latin America. Trump said in the Truth Social post that Energy Secretary Christopher Wright, who's, by the way, from Colorado, will oversee the transfer of oil to the United States. He says, quote, I am pleased to announce the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at market prices. That money will be controlled by the President of the United States to ensure that it is used for the benefit of the Venezuelan and the people of Venezuela and the United States. So he says we're not going to get this loaded up in the coffers of Congress. We're going to have to make sure we guard this before your members of Congress spend it and give it to Somali daycare. So the president said the oil will be transported by large storage ships taken directly to unloading docks in the United States. And this move comes after, of course, the arrest of Nicolas Maduro and his wife over the weekend. The oil is coming our way. A lot of folks don't understand the history. It's amazing how we have such a limited window of history. A lot of folks don't remember Hugo Chavez, who was the predecessor of Nicolas Maduro. Hugo Chavez actually went in, and Chevron was one of the companies, went in and took over their signed contracts and said, no, we own this now, and kicked them out. So the wells and the location of oil is mapped out and ready to go. Now, some people say these oil and gas companies say, well, is it going to have, are you going to take our leases again? I heard somebody yesterday say, well, why have the oil companies not jumped up and said, we're right there? Well, we're 72 hours, we're barely a handful of hours past this event. I think today, a lot of the big oil companies are meeting with the energy secretary to kind of talk about the plan forward and restoring some of those leases that were hijacked by Hugo Chavez and continue to be hijacked by Maduro. So anyway, oil's coming our way. That should help the cost of energy. Just if you really study the oil thing on this thing, it is really quite fascinating how this oil has been disseminated around the world and how the players around the world were helping to fund the regime and now just a simple blockade of this oil was illegal to be sold, and they were still selling it. America and other countries for years turned their nose at they were exporting oil, and people were buying this stuff from Venezuela. And we finally stopped and said, you can't do that. There are over 50 countries that did not recognize Nicolas Maduro as the legitimate president of the of Venezuela. If you recall, when his last election happened, he was losing his opponent, who's I guess in exile or hanging out in the United States or undisclosed location right now. Left the country under house arrest a couple of weeks ago, which should have been a sign. She had help getting out of there. She's hiding out, says she'll return to Venezuela when she can, but she was winning the last election by like 92%. And at that point, Nicolas Maduro stopped the counting and said, go to jail, go directly to jail. So it's really, this illegitimate oil has been sold illegally for a long time, and we have turned a blind eye on it. Election corruption, you got it right there in Venezuela. Dishonest elections, you got it right there. But the party that says no kings is suddenly wanting to return the king back to Venezuela. It's really interesting to watch how the alignments of things come together. And all started because you have President Trump, and don't like it or like it, that's our question of the day. President Trump has come out and said, hey, the HOA, we get a little slack here. You're not supposed to do this in the homeowners association. You're not supposed to do this. We live in a gated community and everybody's not behaving themselves. And we're going to make sure that we get things in line because we have the biggest house and pay the most dues in the HOA. Is that an American right? Is that American arrogance? Do you believe that the Donroe Doctrine, named after a revision and maybe steroids of the Monroe Doctrine, do you believe this is the right play for us in America? What say you? That is your question of the day. ICE recruitment is very high. I know sometimes you watch the media and you see these paid protesters. A lot of them are paid actors, and they have decided that they hate ICE. Everybody hates ICE. Well, recruitment has more than doubled under Trump at ICE, seizing on improving public sentiment for law enforcement. ICE employment has gone from 10,000 to 22,000 in just 4 months. Its own goal was only to have 10,000 new employees. The hiring surge follows the review of more than 220,000 applications submitted throughout the year after applying public campaigns urged Americans to serve their country. They only wanted to hire 10,000. They got over almost 250,000 applications in just a couple of months, and they ended up hiring 20,000. And it's iconic advertising, which was reminiscent of the Uncle Sam "I Want You" posters that the Army recruitment started back in the around WW1 1917. The ad touted $50,000 signing bonus, $60,000 student loan repayment. It says American has been invaded by criminals and predators. We need you to get them. And so Americans said, where? Predators, criminals? Let's get them. And 250,000 applications and 20,000 have been hired. And you're seeing a surge of people wanting to serve their country in that capacity. You're also seeing a surge in the recruitment and enlistment in the military under President Trump. So this Donroe Doctrine that also includes domestic law and order evidently has a heck of a lot of people wanting to say, I'll be a part of that. I'm ready for that. So it seems as if you look at the numbers, not the media, it looks as if there's a lot of people excited that we're returning to clean up the homeowners association. But the media would portray it as if no one wants this. So give me your thoughts on the Donroe Doctrine. Love to have your comment on that. All right, serious topic, but not really serious. It's National Pass Gas Day. Yeah. But you know what? When you were 10 or 11 years old, 9 years old, especially boys, I think, I can't speak to the girls, but boys, if you were playing video games or riding a bike with your friends or whatever, and someone had to let it out, it was funny. And sometimes you would try to make sure that if there was something that was odorific, I'm trying to be very polite and clean. If there was something that was smelly, you would try to make sure that your friends smelled it. That was the whole point. It wasn't step outside and be polite. It was like you're going to fumigate the room. And boys were notorious for this. And videos of a couple of years ago, you have videos and games, and it just... You wanted it to make noise at times. So you really wanted that. And it was great. But now the kids don't see it that way. Today's National Pass Gas Day. And celebrating farts, something that used to be universally funny across all demographics, may not be as funny as it used to be. Lifehacker is a publication. They did a roundup of the top things kids did and did not find funny in 2025. And for the first time since anybody's ever surveyed this, farts are not funny anymore to the kiddos. We have raised a bunch of wussies, haven't we? We've just raised them wrong or something out there. Some videos went viral in July where parents and teachers claimed that Gen Alpha kids don't laugh when someone cuts a loud one or a wet one or a squeaker. We used to laugh. That was a chuckle. That was a giggle in 3rd grade or 8th grade. It was funny in the locker room, whatever. But it's been going on all year. Parents are like, my kids aren't laughing at this. This should be funny. One video showed a mom asking her kid about it, and he was adamant no one in his class would laugh if he farted. Even if it smelled, they would not laugh at this. He informed his mother in the video that this is just a normal thing we all do. She agreed, but she said everyone would have laughed when she was a kid, and he said, they're not funny. It's just part of life. We just carry on and move on. So I don't know what happened to our new generation, but if you want to get a giggle today by passing gas like the old days, don't do it around the kids. The kid's not going to find it funny. A 10-year-old doesn't see the humor like we used to have. And what is this? The alpha generation? I don't know what they are. Yeah. I think I go to where we should have these kids should wear a hat. And I'd like to have a hat that says "Make farting great again," and I think that would. Delilah's shaking her head at me. I think that'd be "Make farting great again." It would be good. Oh yes, Jim brings up a point. I just saw pop on the screen. Whoopee cushions. I mean, farting was so funny that you took whoopee cushions, and if you could get your friend to sit on a whoopee cushion, it sounded like a big sloppy wet one, and go check your stuff later. And you get to a certain age, you don't ever trust a fart. But at that age, it was funny. But yeah, whoopee cushions. I mean, you wanted to make the noise. Anybody remember how you made the noise as a kid? If you put your hand under your arm, your underarm, and you could make a noise. I always laugh too, being from the South in Texas. How many ladies did not want to say the F word, fart? I farted. Guys did all the time. But my mother would be very horrified at that. Pass gas. A little gassy, just a little gassy, just a little gassy. Or toot. That was a big one in the South. You tooted or pooted. You could poot or toot. And they're two different things. And it was still funny. If someone did it in class, it was funny. And if they didn't do it, you didn't have a whoopee cushion, you could make the sound under your armpit, or you'd make some noise because you wanted to make it. Remember you buy the stink bombs that smelled like bad stuff, and somebody cracked one of those in the hallway, and it was funny as well. You bought them at the store called Spencer's, a little glass thing. Somebody stepped on it, and suddenly the whole place smelled like farts. That was funny. That's what we did. Now you probably go to prison, jail, or something like that for doing that thing. Anyway, happy National Pass Gas Day. Stacy says, so ladies can pass gas today? Very informative show. Ladies, you can pass gas anytime you want. It's not my business. I am not here to judge when you toot. It's not my numbers. I don't care. You can toot when you want to. Just make tooting great again. That ladies can get out for the guys, make farts great again, and for the ladies, we'll make tooting great again. And anybody gonna wear that? Raise your hand if you would wear that. All right, Minnesota, the fraud. We got to get into this. It's fascinating to watch what's happening there. I'm so cynical anymore that any government official that commits waste, fraud, and abuse and then scandal will ever be held accountable. I mean, there's a dog and pony show hearing going on at the House Oversight Committee. There's going to be some great questions, and there's going to be some great audio. Remember back in the days, Trey Gowdy used to ask those questions of Hillary and Benghazi, and nothing ever happened. I mean, it's really these oversight hearings oftentimes become dog and pony shows. I'm going to listen to my friend Michael Letts, and he says indictments are coming. He says not just on Minnesota, but a lot of corruption. There's going to be some indictments, and he even says tribunals happening here. So we shall see if that's going to happen. Now, there was an interesting take on this yesterday. Dr. Oz, you might remember him from television, and also he ran for the Senate in Pennsylvania, but he's also acting administrator for the Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services. So he has a keen eye on what's happening in Minnesota, and he has formally, or his agency has formally notified Tim Walz of Minnesota that every Medicaid billing submission in Minnesota is now going to be audited. They are sending in the audit team. Now, we heard this last week from Michael Letts also, who has his eye on what's happening and knows what's happening in the Department of Justice, that the FBI was setting up an entire division, basically prop up in Minnesota on site to do this and to start looking into this. We also know that more than 2,000 ICE agents have shown up there and are starting to deport. They've a couple of hundred people in just a couple of days, some of the worst criminals that were roaming the streets of Minnesota. Well, Dr. Mehmet Oz said, listen, we ain't done yet. I deal with Medicaid, I deal with Medicare services, and there's some obvious fraud here. And we're going to go line by line, dot by dot, number by number, zero by zero, and that fraudulent claims will be crawled back. In other words, everything they find is fraudulent. Minnesota, we found this billions of dollars in fraudulent activity. You're going to pay it back, and how you're going to pay it back is going to be withheld from your future funding. That could leave a mark. Unfortunately, it could leave a mark on some good people that actually need the services, perhaps in Minnesota, but they're going to have to pay for the sins of Tim Walz. Early December, they sent a formal letter and issued an ultimatum and said, you need to give us a full accounting by the end of the year. Said after business hours on the 31st. Oz said they sent us a report, but it was far, far less than what it should be for accountability. And they believe it's over. Oz wrote at the time, back in December, they stole over $1 billion from Medicaid, and we deserve an explanation. And now they're estimating that number's even going to go higher. And so they said there's going to be a clawback in Minnesota, and all this money that was stolen from you and I to fund these fake daycares in Somalia, by Somalians in Minnesota, that money's all going to be paid back. And unfortunately, it's going to be paid back at the expense of people that probably actually need that. All right, what else do I have? Minnesota. I will say on that story here. Anybody hear this? There was a suitcase full of cash found there. This is how the corruption. Federal government is now probing hundreds of millions in suspected Somali cash that was in luggage leaving the airport. Give me small unmarked bills, put them in a suitcase, leave by the street corner. The Transportation Security Administration flagged nearly $700 million in cash that was detected in passengers' luggage leaving Minnesota over the last 2 years. So this money's going into these Somalians, these fake daycares. This scam is going on. And every week, every month, TSA is noting hundreds of millions of dollars of cash are at the Minneapolis airport over the last 2 years leaving. That's believed to be tied to Somali immigrants and their money couriers. So you get the government grants, you get the government funding for your fake daycare, you cash it out, and you send it off to wherever you need to send it to fund whatever you need to fund or to launder wherever you need to launder. The official says the cash movements in and out of Minnesota's largest airports began about a decade ago. It's right around the same time that Democrat Tim Walz took office and has grown substantially in recent years. There's also, though all were legally declared according to the U.S. Customs, the bundles of cash in luggage, some as much as $1 million in a single trip, has raised suspicions. They're legally declaring, or you have cash with you for these international trips, or what do you have, or when you're right. They're declaring it. I'm carrying cash there, but the TSA made note, and it's hundreds of millions of dollars. The mountains of dollars leaving the country is now being investigated, not just by the reports from TSA, but Homeland Security Investigations is also breaking into this and say, hey, what's been happening there in Minnesota for the last 10 years, really ramping up over the last 2 years, in which millions of dollars have been leaving in cash, not wire transfers to bank accounts, but in cash, millions of dollars stuffed into suitcase. March of last year, federal grand jury convicted the head of the now defunct organization Feeding Our Future of what they called the largest fraud of the pandemic aid. That involved $250 million. Officials said most of the dollars were detected in luggage involved in a small number of money couriers, all of them of Somalian descent, who took routine routes from Dubai to Amsterdam, usually from Minnesota, but other times they'd go from Seattle, Dallas, Columbus, Atlanta, and usually Dubai by way of Amsterdam. So these Somalians were somehow final destinations, leaving, these couriers, if you will, leaving and somehow making their way to Dubai. That's what we got. Corruption. Now the eyes are turning on Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, that he is actually receiving some donations from certain people out there. I know it's shocking. I want to play this video and go back and watch yesterday's show before we wrap up. Had an interview with Michael Letts and talked about the prosecutions and the tribunals and the arraignments and grand juries that have already been impaneled that we're not even sure about. They're happening in Washington, D.C., happening around America. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. Michael Letts thinks that finally some justice is going to happen for all this corruption. But it may not just be, it may not just be one party. Michael Letts says he has seen a list of people that the Department of Justice is now looking at that had been literally on the payroll of the Venezuelan government. So forget the corruption in Minnesota, but how many people have been receiving funds one way or the other from Venezuela? This was Michael Letts on the show yesterday. You can go back and watch the full interview, but here's what he said yesterday about government corruption, not just in Minnesota. We all get angry at Minnesota, but could it be that your lawmaker is doing some bad things as well? Watch this.
In Venezuela, on the Department of Interior, from many of its cabinet members and many of its high-ranking officials, we have been provided a list. Now, remember, we're vetting this list as we talk. A list of elected officials, congressmen and senators, who are on the payroll for Venezuela, have been paid millions to subvert our government and to keep them in the loop and to support the government of Venezuela. Now, Jimmy, I am deeply sad to tell you when I have read that list, I don't have enough time on your show to go to all the names that are on the list. It's over half of the United States Senate. It is more Democrats than I care to remember. There are Republicans on there. It is the same as in Congress. This is unprecedented. We also have the same issue now coming out of Ukraine, that we have whistleblowers saying, hey, the money you sent over here, here's the senators and the House members whose money went into their personal accounts. All this is under consideration. All this is under review. So I probably underspoke when I told you that there's going to be fireworks in the first quarter of January. This cannot go unpunished and unchallenged. It has tremendous impacts on the country.
There you have it. That's Michael Letts. Go back and watch the full interview. He talks about what he knows, what he's heard, what he has seen, and he says, stand by, my friends. It ain't just happening in Minnesota, but there's some corruption that's going to be rooted out that's happened in other places in America. And a lot of that, people get nervous. Donald Trump's getting us in foreign entanglements. Well, that may be true. You can agree with that, but I'm telling you, there could be a lot of members of Congress and elected officials that have had some foreign entanglements as well, and it somehow benefits their bank accounts. And that's going to be interesting. Everybody hold on to your horses, my friends. Michael Letts yesterday said going to be a very, very interesting first quarter. I think Edward sums it up probably on the YouTube channels. They all should be arrested, but of course they won't be. Something needs to change. Edward, I think you expressed the sentiment of so many. We've heard so many years of corruption, and we've had a lot of good showboat hearings, Republicans yelling at Democrats, Democrats yelling at Republicans, and it raises money for both sides. But nothing ever changes. And hopefully, maybe we'll get to the place where it changes. But so far, it hasn't changed. And it should be, we, the people, should be very angry with the politicians of any colored jersey, whether they're red jerseys or blue jerseys. We should be angry at this type of corruption that's happening. But unfortunately, at least one side can only seem to be angry if the orange man's involved. And if the orange man's involved, he's going to look good. We'll stand behind Maduro. We'll stand behind all the bad guys as long as, because we have such derangement. Until we get over the derangement syndrome and the derangement syndrome about red team, blue team, orange man, whatever. Until we get over that, a lot of this is not going to be brought to justice. It'll just be viewed political, and it's not good. Not good. I'll be optimistic, Edward, but I think you sum it up. A lot of us feel the exact same way. All right, before we go to the meme roulette section of the show, I do want to remind you, if you've made your New Year's resolution, are you keeping it? How are you doing on it? According to Forbes, only 1% of people will keep their New Year's resolutions for the year. So the failure rate is very high. And you've known that. We've all broke a resolution. We suck at them. We make them too vague. We do all or nothing. And so if you're struggling with your resolution, Forbes has put out some lists, and there's a list. First of all, stop pressuring yourself. Lower the standards, but be specific. Don't say, I want to get fit. Start by change it up and say, this is my year to lose some weight. No, this is my year to walk 10 minutes after work every day. Think of small wins. They say if you bit off this big bite of the apple and you're like, I'm not going to be able to do this all year, lower your standards a little bit. They say tie habits to routines. Like after you start the morning coffee, they say do 5 squats. Just do 5 squats right there in the kitchen while you wait for the coffee. They say plan for things to go wrong. If you don't have time, do the 2-minute version instead of the 10-minute version. Lower the standards. All these things come into play. So if you're struggling now as we start halfway through the first full week of work back in New Year's, and you're still struggling or you're going to start struggling, track your progress, bring in somebody to hold you accountable, maybe do that 10-minute walk with somebody else. And yeah, so there's ways to do it. It's Vox has it. VOX has the whole list of ways that if you're struggling already with that New Year's resolution, it could be because it's too vague and it's too big, and you might be better to limit it down. If you can't pull off a dry January, maybe a dry week, maybe there's whether it's fitness or health or what you put in your body, there's ways to do it, but lower your expectations and hang in there, kids. It's going to be okay. Hang in there, my kids. It's going to be all right. You'll get there together. All right. Good to have you here on the program. I promise you it is a fantastic day to be here. And if you'd like to support the show in any way in 2026, you can send us an email, info@jimmylakey.com, looking for some new advertising partners. We're going to be doing a road show around America, hopefully, good Lord willing. And if you would like to if you'd like to be a part of that, it's info@jimmylakey.com. We'll get you information. No pressure. Not going to call you in sales pitch or anything, but we'll be in touch and let you know how you can support and spread the mission. All of you new folks on the Rumbles, hello. We had a Rumble raid yesterday. A lot of folks showed up for Rumble. I don't know how that works, but keep raiding us because some of you are pretty smart there on the Rumble. Some weren't, but for the most part, it was a good experience for all of us. It was so good. Producer Chad had to have a towel and a cigarette after the show. That's how good it was for him. I don't know. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go. It's time for us to wrap this dog and pony show up so that you can be captivated by hearings in Washington, D.C. Again, 2 hearings happening right now. One is the Oversight Committee looking at Minnesota fraud, and the other one is the Trump administration talking about what they did in Venezuela. And that's going to be the news of the night. So prepare your hearts for that. If you're tired of those topics, don't watch the news today. Put on some good music and carry on. My Wayward Sons, Carry On. It's a good song. Ready? It's time for the stolen meme section of the show. Meme roulette. We go round and round the globe. We go where we steal the memes from. No one knows. Free Maduro. Does she know Maduro is not Spanish for food? Free food. That's what she's hoping for. It looks like, yeah. Oh, I don't know if Maduro would like her haircut either. You know, they probably killed people for less than that in Venezuela. Round and round the globe we go where we steal the memes from. No one knows. Liberals moving to the next thing, embracing dictators. I wonder, did you Democrat liberal protesters, did you keep all the flags and the signs? Is your room like for Palestine? It's like Greta Thunberg. What flag are we waving today? Ukraine. Put the Ukraine flag up. Put the Pride flag up. Put the Palestine flag up. They just change their flags out. They swap them out. Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Round around the globe we go where we steal the memes from. No one knows. My kid, honor student at Quality Learning Center. Go away. That probably bumper stickers driving around Minneapolis today. Somebody has an honor kid there. Honor student. Round around the globe we go where we steal the memes from. No one knows. This is from Babylon B. Awkward Biden forced to pay Trump the $25 million bounty for capturing Maduro. Oh, that's good. That's a good one. Donald Trump's going to put it towards his library, a big, beautiful library. Round and round the globe we go where we steal the memes from. No one knows. I'm not going to lie. When I was younger, I always thought adults were being dramatic when they said, if it's not one thing, it's another. But now as an adult, I confirm without hesitation that if it's not one thing, it's another. Anybody feel that way? Yeah. Yeah. It was much more simple. We just laugh at farts. Life was much more simple when you just toot and your buddies would go, "That's funny." This stinks. Yeah, that's much. But now, if it's not one thing, it's another. Yeah. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. There's Marco Rubio finding out he's got to run Venezuela, Minnesota, and Hilton. Marco Rubio's got so many jobs right now. Marco Rubio's going to handle it. Marco Rubio's going to handle it. Yeah, that's. I hope he's getting a pay raise all these times. Yeah. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. I've got a sense of humor, a dirty mind, and a beautiful heart. I'm like a Hallmark card written by Betty White. Let that sink in. The kids don't understand that, but they also don't laugh at farts. Round around the globe we go, where we steal the memes from. No one knows. Oh, there it is. China. No more stealing memes, intellectual property theft. They have the corner of the market on. They get really, really jealous. All right, less than 2 weeks away, the first roadshow appearance of the new year. It's going to be the 20th of January, a Tuesday. It's going to be the Casbar Cigar Lounge in Lafayette, Colorado. We're putting together some other road shows out there. Maybe you're a business owner out there somewhere, especially the place that we'd like to hang out at. Whatever state you're in, you'd like to host the road show. We'd love to bring the road show to you. So let us know. We're putting it together. Don't have the formalized schedule because producer Chad and I are just making it up as we go. And we'll figure it out, though. The road show, 2026 road show, begins January the 20th in Colorado, right here where we broadcast from originally. And then Texas is in our spotlight, I believe. The Carolinas down with Michael Lutz is in the spotlight. Maybe another Texas stop down with Doug Giles. I'm thinking about these road shows. And we just got to we're figuring out the logistics of them and the details and all that. And, producer Chad has needs in the green room. He only likes blue M&Ms. And we're putting the rider together for producer Chad. Me, I just show up. That's all I care about. All right, let's wrap it up. I miss all of you, but don't forget the road show's coming up on that glorious day, the 20th. Don't forget our charity work. If you're not familiar with it, go to our website, riverspromise.org. Rivers Promise. Hey, help us start this new year strong. Help us keep the new year going strong. $25 makes a difference. $10 help a kid. Go check out the cause, the mission, the videos, and feel so led of the Lord. Hit that donate button. God bless you. God bless America. I am Jimmy Lakey. Peace. I'm out of here.